What's up guys, it's Poetic Whisper, and today I'm going to talk about some probably unpopular opinions. I've seen a lot of people making these unpopular opinion videos on Battlefield 1, and I don't think that they're really that unpopular. I think that the general consensus in the community is Battlefield 1 is put in sort of a negative connotation. So today I'm just gonna talk about everything that I think about Battlefield 1 and previous installments and everything. Just remember that this is my opinion and I don't hold any ill will towards any Battlefield game at all. I think that they're all really good. I think some are better than others, but I also believe that Battlefield 1 gets unjustly hated in the Battlefield community because it's the new game. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Was Battlefield 1 the awful Battlefield people make it out to be? It seems like a topic of conversation amongst the bigger YouTube channels out there to see what the community thinks of Battlefield 1. Of course, it seems to be half-baked with a bunch of personal input. Everybody seems to be super pro Battlefield 4 lately, so I figured today I wanted to give the other side of the argument. As a person who very much enjoys Battlefield 1 and thinks it may be one of the best Battlefield games in the entire series, I figured who else would be better to sing its praises than me? Battlefield 1 will be forever known as the Battlefield game that probably had the most hype coming out of the gate. With DICE deciding to go back to World War I, they set an immeasurably high bar. As kids and FPS fans were getting sick and tired of Call of Duty shoving futuristic titles down their throat, DICE opted to make a game that was set in a war that before then hadn't really been done before. They had the money and the skill to make a quality World War I experience, and in my eyes, they did. Sure, a few months before Battlefield 1's release, we had Verdun, but Verdun is Verdun and it's not a Battlefield game. Seeing the biggest complaint that people have regarding Battlefield 1, that the time period it's set in is not historically accurate. But that's a baseless argument. Battlefield 1 doesn't try to be historically accurate. They stated this before in a video titled Battlefield 1 Gameplay Series Weapons. They said that while they're trying to make guns true to life, they're also taking them and giving them a modern flair, which is important to remember. Battlefield 1 is a World War I game through the lens of a modern shooter. You simply cannot expect DICE to just change the entire Battlefield formula to accommodate a different type of warfare. It's true, a lot of World War I was sitting in trenches, getting blown to shit by artillery and taking pot shots 50 yards to your enemy's trench. But that's not Battlefield. Battlefield 1 is a game set in World War I, not a World War I game set in the Battlefield franchise. To expect it to be anything different is on you. There's a difference between historical accuracy and authenticity. Battlefield 1 is authentic with its locations, guns, uniforms, vehicles, but they're not accurately portraying World War I. But when has Battlefield ever done that? You see it in games like Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3 with experimental weapons that never saw the light of day. It exists, but it's only a problem now because it's set in a historical time period. This is an argument. Personally, I don't care much for the lack of customization, and in my eyes, I actually prefer the variant system to Battlefield 4's overcomplicated system. See, people complain day after day about not having the option to switch between 15 different red dot sites, but in reality, they probably only use one. I know I did. And I'm not saying I speak for everyone, but I can tell you right now that the exact loadout I used for every single gun in Battlefield 4 was the Cobra sight, 4x toggleable magnifier, no laser or flashlight, and a suppressor. That's it. Every single gun. Didn't matter if it was an AR or a carbine or a DMR. Shotguns and sniper rifles were different, but you get my point. This choice that people clamor for, they likely didn't really make use of. Battlefield 4 in my eyes had so much content that majority of it went unused by the typical user. But now that they don't have it anymore, people act like they miss it. It's the illusion of choice, content for the sake of content, and that I do not agree with. It should be more about the gunplay and less about making yourself look pretty. Same goes for character customization. I don't know why people want this in a World War I game. You're a faceless soldier in a war that didn't give a shit about the individual. People were mowed down and left to die alone in a hole by the dozens. You're nothing more than a cog on the wheel, so stop trying to make it seem like you're anything special, because if anything breaks the historical accuracy that people claim they want, it's not being dressed in the correct uniform. I've seen people say that they want at least to change the face, mustache, helmet, but why? There's only so many options you can have, and knowing people, they'll see a few options and then bitch and say DICE half-assed character customization on purpose. Would I like to see the next game have more customization? Sure. But do I think it needs to have it to be a fun game? No. This one always makes me laugh. How is Battlefield 1 any bit more casual than Battlefield 4, 3, Bad Company 2, etc.? Battlefield has been casual since at least the first Bad Company. In fact, the Bad Company games were meant to be casual. Battlefield 3 and 4 were no more tactical, no more mil-sim than Battlefield 1 is. In fact, I'd hazard to say that they play roughly the exact same. I didn't massively change up my formula or playstyle from switching between Battlefield 4 to Battlefield 1. My biggest difference, I noticed, is that I started playing support more than I ever did before. I don't understand this argument at all. The biggest point most people have when making this argument is that the guns have random bullet deviation, which has degraded massively since the Time to Kill 2.0 patch, I might add. I've never had many issues, or any at all, with my bullets hitting a target if I point at them. In fact, I've even counter-sniped snipers with the Shosho on multiple occasions. Again, what game are people playing? Battlefield 1 is more content than previous Battlefields by quite a substantial amount in some areas. People say that Battlefield 1 has less DLC packs, so that means less content, but haha! There was 2 DLC packs in The Name of the Tsar and They Shall Not Pass, and Battlefield 1 that offered 6 maps instead of the promised 4, which would make an entirely new pack within its own. Never mind the free map Giant Shadow, which almost makes up for Apocalypse missing a 4th infantry map. So in all, that's 20 maps in total, the same amount as Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 4, 22 if you count air superiority maps, not to mention the 9 base game maps. That makes 29 maps total, which is the exact same number of maps that Battlefield 3 had when it finished. Battlefield 4 did have 30 maps when all was said and done, but of course 4 of them were just ported Battlefield 3 maps with minor changes, and then there was the final maps that came out post-support. The Community Map Project, Legacy Map, Dragon Valley, and Zavad 311 Graveyard Shift. So that's 33 maps total. Only 2 more than Battlefield 1 if you count the air superiority maps. But my biggest problem with just comparing numbers is that the quality should be more important than the quantity, and in my opinion, a lot of Battlefield 4's DLC maps and base game maps were very underwhelming. There's tons of great DLC maps for Battlefield 1. Achibaba, Zeebrugge, Passchendaele, the River Somme, Verdun Heights, Nivelle Nights, Priesta Tahor, I'm butchering the names, Volga River, Fort de Vaux. I can't name you a single DLC map outside of Second Assault that I even liked in Battlefield 4, and that's not just me being super selective for the purpose of this video. I truly mean it. So many of Battlefield 4's DLCs were insanely underwhelming, uninspiring, and boring. China Rising was insanely forgettable. Second Assault was the only good one because Battlefield 3's map designs were great, but they butchered Gulf of Oman with the stupid sandstorm. Dragon's Teeth was one of my most anticipated DLCs for Battlefield 4, but was insanely disappointing. I didn't like a single map in it. I played it for a few days, but ultimately went back to Second Assault. Naval Strike was another forgettable map pack that lost popularity very fast. Its Carrier Assault game mode was super promising, but ultimately fell flat, and the player base for it died very fast. The Final Stand pack was probably the best pack, but I really only liked it for the Easter egg. My favorite maps in Battlefield 4 didn't come in any of the DLCs. Shanghai, Zavad, Parasol Storm, and Galmud were the only Battlefield 4 maps I really enjoyed. Compared to the amount of maps I love in Battlefield 1, that's just sad. So while Battlefield 1 has less maps than the fan favorite Battlefield 4, its map quality in my eyes is much better. And in terms of weapons, according to Danny on PC, Battlefield 1 is the exact same amount of weapons as Battlefield 3. That doesn't include variants. So if that's not a lot of weapons, then you should go complain about Battlefield 3. This one might be a bit controversial. I'd like to preface this by saying I don't dislike Bad Company 2. In fact, I love Bad Company 2 dearly. And also, I'm going to discuss numbers here because that seems to be what people care about. As I said before, I don't think numbers really matter, but it's important to some people. But it's funny to me that people will vilify Battlefield 1 for its lack of content, but in the same sentence talk about the golden days of Bad Company 2. Battlefield Bad Company 2, as I alluded to earlier, was made to be casual. You want to talk about a lack of content? You could do two things to your weapons Bad Company 2. Put a red dot or put a 4x zoom. All assault rifles had grenade launchers, all engineer guns had suppressors. That's it. That's something you dealt with. The game came with 4 conquest maps at launch. 4. And only later did they add a few more, which were just rush maps turned into conquest maps. The only new maps they added were Oasis, Harvest Day, Cold War, and Heavy Metal. Oasis and Harvest Day were Bad Company 1 maps, so they basically had to do nothing to get them to work in Bad Company 2, as the games looked and basically ran the exact same, used the same assets, and ran on the same engine. And Heavy Metal and Cold War were just campaign maps. Sure, they added the Vietnam expansion, but that only added 5 more maps, putting the game's total maps at the end of its lifespan at 18. 13 for the base game, and less depending on the game mode you were playing, since there were game-specific maps like Valparaiso. I fucked that name up hard. Each class had 7 guns, with just 8 all-kit weapons, 36 total, 37 if you have the M1 Garand, and about 15 new guns in Vietnam, which is completely separate from the main game and cannot be used in it. But if we include them, it'll be at 52. Battlefield 1 is at 54 main weapons, 59 if you include the elite kits. That doesn't include variants or sidearms. So not only does Battlefield 1 have more content than Battlefield Bad Company 2, it also has more players, more vehicle types, and in my eyes, better destruction. So what amazes me is how people will say Battlefield 1 sucks for its lack of content, but in the same breath, praise Bad Company 2. If you enjoy the game more, then by all means, that doesn't matter, but just don't be a hypocrite. Battlefield 1 is plagued by what I'd like to call the new game affliction. You see it happen all the time with COD, and it happens in Battlefield as well. It happens pretty much any game in a series, where players will buy this new game, love it for a few weeks, start to see the cracks because they no-lifed it, and they start to get bored. Then they look to the last game in the franchise with rose-tinted glasses and forget everything the new game did better. It amazes me when I see people look back to Battlefield 4 with such high esteem, when in reality Battlefield 4 was heavily criticized at launch for having one of the most buggy releases of all time. It took them over a year to fix the game to the point where it was actually playable. Did Battlefield 4 do certain things right? Sure. It had much better custom server features, and it had a better party join system, but to me, that's where the praises end. I simply cannot go back to Battlefield 4 after playing Battlefield 1. I never understood this phenomenon, and I can only imagine the same thing is going to happen when Battlefield 2018 releases. People are going to look back on Battlefield 1 with such high praise, the same people who heavily criticize it now. But let this video stand as a testimony that I was here from the beginning to the end. To me, Battlefield 1 excels in so many areas that people just sort of gloss over when they project their hatred. It's got amazingly detailed maps. It's got some of the best new game modes in the entire series with operations and frontlines. Its graphics are insanely good, and it's ripe with incredible detailing. From mud sticking to your gun, different gun reloads depending on how low and empty your magazines are, vaulting over objects above your head, some of the best infantry combat in the entire series, vehicle classes which stop players from using tanks and planes as taxi cabs, no lock-on weapons making tanks and, more importantly, air battles more fun and skillful, elite kits which are basically just small vehicles, hands down the best hand-to-hand combat in the entire series, the best class balance, some of the best destruction in the entire series that isn't bogged down by boring set-piece destruction like the Levolution in Battlefield 4, behemoths which are still really cool even after 2 years of the game being out, and official mixed map servers that allow you to play all maps in one server as well as a map voting system. Is the game perfect? No. Absolutely not. It's got an awful party system, the bayonet charge needs a huge change, grenade spam is insane, There's some blatantly overpowered guns, there's some very annoying persistent bugs, and the game's life was hampered by the premium pass. But that doesn't kill the game for me. I've seen a few YouTubers say that the next Battlefield game, if it isn't better, then it's going to be the end of the Battlefield series, and that's just bullshit. They act as if Battlefield 1 left the series on its last leg, when in reality, it was the leg it needed to stay stable. And mark my words, it will be looked back on as one of the best. As for me, I won't be looking back with rose-tinted glasses, I'll be reminiscing on the good times I had playing the game that I enjoyed from beginning to end. No abandoning, no quitting, just enjoying. And that's something people seem to forget when they talk about their favorite games nowadays. Games are meant to be enjoyed. If you don't enjoy Battlefield 1, then that's fine. But if you stand there and you criticize it for not being the game that you wanted, then too fucking bad. Because the game clearly wasn't made for you. You can talk about how great Battlefield 4 was all you want, but don't forget that Battlefield 1 laid a solid groundwork for what will be probably a really awesome game for Battlefield 2018. So thank you guys for watching. I know that was a long one, and I know I talked for a long time. I hope you didn't get bored. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't hate Battlefield 4. I don't hate Bad Company 2. Do I think Battlefield 4 is mildly disappointing? Absolutely. That's just my opinion, of course, which is why I made this video in the first place, is to give a different side of this argument, because, like I said, a lot of bigger YouTubers out there will stand and say that the community wants this and the community wants that, and everybody feels this way, and Battlefield 4 is so much better, and it's got more players playing, and this and that, and whatever else, but they don't speak for those of us who actually do enjoy Battlefield 1. I know it's crazy that there are some people out there who enjoy a Battlefield game for its gameplay and not for the customization or the stuff that they throw at us all the damn time. To me, Battlefield 1, while not being a perfect game, is, in my eyes, probably the best in the series, like I've said. I love it, and I just wanted to get my opinion out there. Do I care if I look like a fanboy in this video? Absolutely not. You can call me a fanboy if you want to. I absolutely am. I love Battlefield 1 and I love everything about it. Even though a lot of it is quite shit. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave your comments below discussing Battlefield. What do you think the next Battlefield game is going to be? I really hope it's World War II or a Cold War style game like Black Ops 1 was. That'd be really cool. I hope not to see another modern game or a futuristic game. DICE, please. Yeah. I'll probably have some more Battlefield videos in the future. Perhaps another Battlefield 1 montage. And I did want to go back and do my destruction video, since that got a lot of views out of nowhere. I wanted to go back and revisit that because I feel like I could have done a better job with that video. It was very biased, and I want to include every Battlefield game since Bad Company 2 because I have them all. I missed out on Battlefield 3 and Battlefield Hardline in that video, and I want to put them in because I feel like Battlefield 3 had some vital steps that laid the groundwork for some of Battlefield 1's destruction. So if you want to see that, let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching. I'm done rambling now. Goodbye.